You're fat. I can't marry someone who looks like this. 200 guests on a Chicago rooftop. Phones recording. A live stream catching every second. He destroyed me in front of everyone. Then a stranger in a black suit walked down the aisle, and the crowd parted like water. Whispers everywhere. That's Jin-Woo Kang. My name is Jin-Woo Kang. And you owe me $2 million, Derek. Gambling debts.
Fraud.
A scheme to marry me and steal my family's money. He exposed everything. Derek's face went white. Then he turned to me and offered his hand. Come with me. I took it. I had no idea my life was about to change forever. I can't do this. The words sliced through the champagne-soaked air of the Chicago rooftop like a gunshot. 250 guests went silent. Someone's phone clattered to the marble floor. Amara's hands tightened around her bouquet of white roses. What did you just say? Derek wouldn't look at her. He stared at his Italian leather shoes instead, his face red, his jaw working. Behind him, his father gripped his shoulder like he was trying to physically hold him in place.
Derek.
The officiant's voice was uncertain. Son, are you? I said I can't do this. Derek finally looked up, and the expression on his face made Amara's stomach drop. Cold.
Disgusted.
Like she was something he'd stepped in. Look at yourself, Amara. You've let yourself go. You're not the woman I proposed to. The rooftop tilted. Amara heard her mother gasp somewhere in the crowd. Heard phones buzzing, cameras clicking, the live stream comments probably exploding right now with laughing emojis and screenshots. Derek, what are you? You're fat. His voice got louder. Cruel. You don't take care of yourself. How am I supposed to introduce you to clients? To business partners? I can't marry someone who looks like this. Amara's vision blurred. She couldn't breathe. The gold-trimmed white dress that had taken 6 months to design suddenly felt like it was crushing her ribs. Behind Derek, his mother's face had gone white. Her bridesmaids stood frozen like mannequins. I'm done. Derek started pulling off his boutonniere. This was a mistake. I'm sorry, everyone wasted their time. He turned to walk away. That's when the man appeared. Stop. One word.
Deep.
Accented. Absolute. Everyone turned toward the rooftop entrance. A man stood there in a black suit that probably cost more than Amara's car, and the way people moved aside for him, it was like watching water part around a shark. Whispers started immediately. That's Jin-Woo Kang. Oh my God, is that really him? What's he doing here? He was Korean. Early 30s, maybe. Sharp cheekbones and darker eyes than Amara had ever seen. Hair styled back from his face. Handsome in a way that felt dangerous. He walked down the aisle between the white chairs, and Amara watched grown men go pale. A woman near the front actually clutched her pearls. Who the hell are you? Derek's voice cracked. The man stopped 3 feet from Amara. Looked at her. Really looked at her, like he was cataloging every detail of her face. Then he turned to Derek, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. My name is Jin-Woo Kang. His voice was smooth. Controlled.
Terrifying.
And you owe me $2 million, Derek. The crowd exploded in whispers. Derek's face went from red to white. I don't, that's not. 3 months ago you borrowed money from me to cover your gambling debts. Jin-Woo's tone never changed. Factual. Devastating. Your father's medical supply company is bankrupt. You needed her family's restaurant investment money to save yourself. That's why you proposed to Amara. To steal from her. Amara's knees buckled. She grabbed the altar to stay upright. Is that true? Her father's voice boomed from the front row. Mr. Hayes, I can explain, Derek's father started. You are going to rob my daughter? Her father stood up. 6'4" of former linebacker. After I trusted you with my business? Dad, wait. Derek held up his hands. But Jin-Woo wasn't done. After the wedding, Derek was going to convince Amara to invest in a business opportunity. Your restaurant expansion fund. $3 million. He'd take the money, pay me back my $2 million, use the rest to pay off loan sharks. Then he'd divorce Amara within a year. Claim irreconcilable differences. That's a lie. Derek shouted. Jin-Woo pulled out his phone, tapped the screen. Derek's voice filled the rooftop, tinny but clear. Yeah, I'll have the money in 2 weeks. After the wedding. The fat girl's family is loaded. They'll never see it coming. Someone screamed. Amara's mother, probably. The phones were out now, everyone recording, the humiliation multiplying by the second. Amara couldn't feel her legs. Couldn't feel anything except a strange, cold clarity settling over her like ice water. So, Jin-Woo turned back to her. His eyes softened slightly. I couldn't let him steal from you. That would bother me. By humiliating me more? Amara's voice cracked, but anger was starting to burn through the shock. By giving you a choice. He stepped closer. Close enough that she could smell his cologne, something expensive and unfamiliar. Stay here with him and lose everything. Or come with me, and I'll show you the truth about who you almost married. Your decision. He offered his hand. Amara looked at it. Looked at Derek, who was stammering excuses to his father. Looked at the phones still recording her worst moment. And something inside her that had been bending under the weight of Derek's words, of years of being told she wasn't enough, finally snapped. She took his hand. His fingers closed around hers, warm and sure, and she felt steadier immediately. Good choice, Jin-Woo said softly. Then louder, to the crowd. The wedding's over. Go home. He led her through the stunned guests, his hand never leaving hers. A man with a kind face and built like a linebacker fell into step beside them, his security, Amara realized distantly. At the exit, Derek found his voice. Amara, wait. Let me explain. Jin-Woo stopped walking. Didn't turn around. Just said, very quietly, if you follow us, Derek, they'll find pieces of you in Lake Michigan. I suggest you go handle your father's bankruptcy instead. Welcome back. Honey hearts, come close. Before we step into the story, tap like and share so more hearts can experience it with you. Let's go. Then they were in an elevator, descending, and Amara's whole body started shaking. Jin-Woo kept holding her hand, steady and patient, while the numbers ticked down. The security guy, Korean, stocky, concerned eyes, handed her a bottle of water without being asked. I'm in June, he said gently. Everything's going to be okay. How is anything okay? Amara's voice came out high and broken. That was everyone saw my family. Your family will be fine. Derek's father will be arrested tomorrow for fraud. Your parents' investment was never processed. Jin-Woo's voice was still calm, like he was discussing the weather instead of her destroyed life. I made sure of it 3 days ago. The elevator doors opened onto the Chicago street. A black Mercedes waited at the curb, engine running. Get in, Jin-Woo said. Not a command. An invitation. Amara should have run. Should have called the police, her mother, anyone. This man was clearly dangerous, clearly involved in things she didn't understand. But Derek's words kept echoing. Let yourself go. Like her worth was measured in pounds and inches. Like 8 months of love were erased because she dared to exist in a body that didn't meet his standards. She got in the car. Jin-Woo slid in beside her. Min-Jun took the front passenger seat, and the driver pulled smoothly into Chicago traffic. Amara watched the rooftop venue disappear behind them, taking her old life with it. Who are you? She asked. Jin-Woo looked at her, and for the first time she saw something other than cold control in his face. Something almost vulnerable. Someone who's been waiting 8 months for you to be free, he said. Then he told her the truth. 3 years ago, Jin-Woo's younger sister Min-Seo was driving home from her college dorm in Vancouver when a drunk driver ran a red light. Her car flipped 3 times before coming to rest upside down on the highway. She was conscious, trapped, bleeding, terrified. She called 911. My sister was 19 years old, Jin-Woo said, staring out the window at Chicago's glittering skyline. Studying nursing. She wanted to help people. And she was dying in a crushed car on Highway 1 alone. Amara's throat tightened. The dispatcher stayed on the phone with her for 43 minutes until the paramedics arrived. She told Min-Seo to breathe. She talked to her about nursing school, about her favorite music, about anything to keep her conscious. When Min-seo started crying that she was scared, the dispatcher sang to her some old R&B song I'd never heard. His voice cracked slightly. My sister died in the ambulance. But she wasn't alone. Someone stayed with her. Someone cared.
I'm sorry, Amara whispered.
Jin-Woo finally looked at her. The dispatcher's name wasn't in the report. It took me 2 years to find her. I had to call in favors, search through thousands of 911 recordings, track employment records. And when I finally found the woman who'd shown my baby sister kindness in her last moments, he smiled, sad and small. She was engaged to a man who didn't deserve her, working as a data analyst when she should be running her own business, settling for someone who couldn't see how extraordinary she was. Amara's eyes stung. That was you? In the coffee shop on Thursdays. His eyebrows rose slightly. You noticed. I'm a data analyst. I notice patterns. She wiped her eyes, smudging mascara. I thought I was being paranoid. The same man at the coffee shop at the art gallery opening in the lobby of my building. I convinced myself it was coincidence. It wasn't. Jin-Woo reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and gently wiped a smudge of mascara from her cheek with his thumb. I wanted to approach you. Wanted to thank you, talk to you, know you. But you were engaged. And I don't cross those lines. So you just watched me? I made sure you were safe. That Derek hadn't hurt you yet. That his father's fraud wouldn't destroy your family. Jin-Woo lowered his hand. And yes, I watched you help Mrs. Kim in your building practice English. Watched you give your lunch to the homeless veteran on Wacker Drive. Watched you return shopping carts in the rain because you didn't want the workers to have extra work. You're kind, Amara. Genuinely kind. That's rarer than you think. The car pulled up to a building in the Gold Coast, all glass and steel and money. Jin-Woo opened her door himself, offering his hand again.
Come upstairs. You don't have to stay.
But let me explain everything before you decide what you want to do next. Amara took his hand and let him lead her inside. The penthouse took up the entire top floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chicago like the city was bowing at their feet. Everything was clean lines and expensive taste, dark wood, cream leather, art that probably cost more than her car. But it wasn't cold. Books lined one wall, their spines worn from actual reading. A Korean blanket draped over the couch. Photos on the mantle of Jin-Woo with an older couple and a young woman who had to be Min-seo, her smile bright and alive. Sit, Jin-Woo said, gesturing to the couch. I'll get you something to drink. I need answers more than wine. You'll have both. He disappeared into the kitchen, returning with 2 glasses of red wine. He handed her one and sat across from her, deliberately putting space between them. What do you want to know? Everything. Start with why Derek knows you. Why he looked terrified. Jin-Woo sipped his wine. I run an import-export business. Mostly legal. Some morally gray areas. I help people the system ignores. Immigrants who need documents, small businesses trying to avoid corrupt inspectors, workers being exploited by corporations. I don't deal drugs. I don't hurt civilians. But I operate outside the law when the law is broken. So you're a criminal.
I'm pragmatic.
There's a difference. He set down his glass. Derek's father owns a medical supply company. 6 months ago, he started stealing from nursing homes, charging Medicare for equipment he never delivered, pocketing the difference. I found out because one of those nursing homes cares for my mother's best friend. So I made him stop.
How?
I bought his debt from his creditors. All of it. Which means he owes me everything now. Jin-Woo's smile was cold. Derek came to me 3 months ago, begging for money to cover his gambling debts. Said he'd pay me back with interest after he married a woman whose family owned a successful restaurant chain.
I realized he was talking about you.
The dispatcher. So I gave him the money, knowing he'd never be able to pay it back, knowing it would give me leverage when I needed it. Amara's stomach turned. You've been manipulating this whole situation.
Yes.
Look at this. Amara looked at the screen. Financial records, text messages, emails, all time-stamped, all detailed, all showing exactly what Jin-Woo had said. Derek bragging to friends about his fat fiancé's money. Derek's father's Medicare fraud. Loan shark threats. Everything. The blunt honesty startled her. Jin-Woo leaned forward, elbows on his knees, and the careful control in his expression cracked slightly. I'm not a good man, Amara. I've hurt people who deserved it, and some who didn't. I've built an empire on other people's desperation. But you, he stopped, jaw tight. You stayed on the phone with my dying sister when you could have transferred her to another dispatcher. You sang to her. You cared when you didn't have to. So yes, I manipulated Derek's situation. I made sure he couldn't marry you, because you deserve better than a man who sees you as a transaction. And what do you see me as? Jin-Woo held her gaze, and something in his eyes made her breath catch. Everything I didn't know I was looking for. The words hung between them, heavy and terrifying. Amara should leave. Should run back to her apartment, call her mother, process this disaster like a normal person. Instead, she said, Derek told everyone I let myself go. In front of 200 people. Derek's an idiot. He said I wasn't attractive enough to marry. Jin-Woo stood abruptly, crossing to her in 3 strides. He crouched in front of her, putting them at eye level, and his voice was low and fierce. Derek is a weak man who tears others down to feel powerful. You are beautiful, Amara. Not despite your curves. Not for a bigger girl. Just beautiful. Period. And any man who can't see that isn't worth your tears. Amara's breath hitched. You don't know me. I know you spend your Saturdays volunteering at the Southside Community Center. I know you cry at dog adoption commercials. I know you hum when you're concentrating, and you take your coffee with too much sugar and exactly 1 ice cube. He reached up slowly, giving her time to stop him, and wiped away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I know Derek never deserved you. And I know 8 months wasn't long enough to truly know someone, which means you were falling in love with a lie. So let yourself grieve that. But don't believe his words. He was projecting his own inadequacy onto you. Why do you care? Her voice broke.
You don't owe me anything.
Your sister, that was just me doing my job. It was you being human when you didn't have to be. And Jin-Woo stopped, something vulnerable crossing his face. I haven't stopped thinking about you since I heard that recording. Your voice. The way you comforted her. I told myself I just wanted to thank you. But when I finally found you, saw you in person, he shook his head. I'm not a man who believes in fate. But you make me wonder. They stayed like that, him kneeling before her, her hands twisted in her lap, the city glittering beyond the windows. Finally, Amara whispered, I don't know what to do now. Everyone saw. Everyone knows Derek dumped me at the altar. I have to go back to work on Monday and face all those people. No, you don't. I can't just quit my job. You can do whatever you want, Amara. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Jin-Woo stood, giving her space again. Stay here tonight. Tomorrow we'll figure out next steps. But right now, you need rest. I can't stay here. Why not? Because I don't know you. Because this is insane. Because you're scared I might be telling the truth. Jin-Woo's voice was gentle. That Derek was the lie, and this, right now, might be real. That terrifies you more than anything else. He was right. God help her, he was right. The master bedroom is through that door, Jin-Woo said, pointing. It's yours for tonight. I'll take the guest room. Lock the door if it makes you feel safer. In the morning, if you want to leave, Minjun will drive you anywhere you want to go. But tonight, let me give you somewhere safe to fall apart where no one's watching. Amara looked at the door. At Jin-Woo, who was dangerous and manipulative and had somehow seen her when she felt invisible. At her ruined wedding dress and destroyed life. Okay, she whispered. Just tonight. Jin-Woo's shoulders relaxed slightly. Just tonight. But they both knew it was a lie. Amara woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the smell of something cooking. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then it all crashed back. Derek, the wedding, Jin-Woo, everything. She sat up in the massive bed, still wearing her slip since she'd stripped out of the wedding dress and left it crumpled on the floor like a corpse. Someone had draped a robe over the chair. She pulled it on and followed the smell to the kitchen. Jin-Woo stood at the stove, barefoot in dark slacks and a white t-shirt, cooking. Actually cooking, not just reheating takeout. The domestic image was so at odds with the dangerous man from last night that Amara almost laughed. "You cook?" she asked from the doorway. He glanced back, and something in his expression softened when he saw her. "My mother insisted. She said no son of hers would be helpless in a kitchen."
Seat.
Breakfast is almost ready. Amara perched on a bar stool, watching him move efficiently between the stove and counter. "What are you making?" "Kimchi jjigae, rice, and scrambled eggs because I remember you're not adventurous with breakfast." He plated everything carefully, set it in front of her with chopsticks and a spoon.
Eat.
"Then we'll talk." The stew was perfect, spicy, rich, comforting. Amara ate mechanically at first, then with actual hunger as her body remembered it hadn't eaten since yesterday afternoon. Jin-Woo sat across from her with his own bowl, eating in comfortable silence. "Your mother taught you well," Amara said finally. "She died 2 years before Minseo. Cancer." Jin-Woo's voice was matter-of-fact, but pain flickered across his face. "She made me promise to take care of my sister. I failed. It wasn't your fault." "I know. Logically, I know. But logic doesn't help at 3 in the morning when I remember I wasn't there." He set down his chopsticks. "That's why finding you mattered. You were there when I couldn't be. You gave her comfort. I needed to. I don't know.
See that you were okay.
That good people still existed in the world." Amara's chest tightened. "I'm not that good. I'm just normal. You're extraordinary, and you don't even know it. That's part of what makes you extraordinary." Jin-Woo stood, collecting the dishes.
"Now.
Let's talk about what happens next. I need to go home. Face my parents. Figure out how to return gifts, cancel the honeymoon, deal with." The list was overwhelming. Amara's eyes stung again. "Or," Jin-Woo said carefully, "you could let me help. I can't accept your charity." "It's not charity. It's strategy." He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You wanted to open a restaurant. Soul food fusion. Your grandmother's recipes with modern techniques. I looked into it last night. You've had the business plan ready for 3 years but couldn't get investors because banks don't trust Black women with ethnic food concepts, no matter how solid the numbers are." Amara's jaw dropped. "How do you?" "I told you."
I'm observant.
His eyes glinted. "I own a property in Toronto's distillery district. Old brick building, perfect bones, ideal for a restaurant. It's been sitting empty for 6 months. You want it? I can't afford. I'm not asking you to buy it. I'm asking you to partner with me. You bring the vision and the skill. I bring the capital and the property. We split ownership 60-40, your favor. You pay me back from profits." It was too good to be true.
It had to be.
"Why would you do that?" "Because you're brilliant and wasting your talent analyzing data for a company that doesn't appreciate you. Because I invest in things I believe in, and I believe in you."
Because he stopped jaw tight.
"Because I want you in my life, Amara. However you'll let me be there. If that's as a business partner, fine. If it's something more, better. But I'm not going to pressure you. The offer stands either way." Amara's head spun. 24 hours ago, she was about to marry Derek. Now a dangerous, beautiful man who'd apparently been watching her for months was offering her everything she'd ever wanted. "I need to think about it," she said. "Take all the time you need. But while you're thinking..." Jin-Woo pulled out his phone, tapped something, and held it up. A video played of Derek in a police station, handcuffed, being walked through doors marked processing. Derek and his father were arrested this morning. Fraud, embezzlement, identity theft. They won't bother you again. You did that. I told you.
I'm pragmatic.
They hurt you. Now they're paying for it. He pocketed the phone. Your parents are fine, by the way. I had my lawyer call them this morning. All their money is safe. The wedding vendors have been paid in full, so they won't face any debts. And the video from last night has been removed from every social media platform. How did you? Money and connections. Jin-Woo's smile was sharp. I'm very good at making problems disappear. Amara should be scared. This level of control, this manipulation of her entire life without her permission, it should terrify her. But instead, she felt safe, protected,
Seen.
which was dangerous in its own way. I need air, she said, standing abruptly. The terrace is through there. Jin-Woo pointed, but didn't move to follow her. Take your time. The terrace overlooked Chicago's downtown core, the morning sun turning the skyscrapers into pillars of gold. Amara gripped the railing, trying to breathe through the chaos in her head. Her phone buzzed in the robe pocket. She'd grabbed it from the bedroom. Texts from her mother, her bridesmaids, her cousins, all variations of "Are you okay?" and "Where are you?" and "Did you really leave with Jin-Woo Kang?" She turned the phone off. You're scared. Jin-Woo's voice came from behind her. She hadn't heard him come out. Wouldn't you be?
Probably.
I'm asking you to trust someone you just met. Someone who admits he's been watching you. Someone who lives in a world most people don't even know exists. He came to stand beside her, not touching, just present. But I need you to understand something, Amara. I will never lie to you. I'll be brutal and honest and tell you things you don't want to hear, but I won't lie. So, when I say you're safe with me, I mean it. When I say I want to help you build your dream, I mean it. And when I say I haven't been able to stop thinking about you for 8 months, I mean that too. Amara finally looked at him. Really looked. The morning light caught the sharp angles of his face, the intensity in his dark eyes, the way his hands gripped the railing like he was physically restraining himself from reaching for her. What do you want from me? She asked. Everything. But I'll settle for a chance. The honesty stole her breath. Jin-Woo turned to face her fully, and the careful control he always wore cracked open. I want to wake up and cook breakfast for you, every morning. I want to teach you Korean and have you teach me more about who you are. I want to watch you build your restaurant and be proud of every success. I want to keep you safe from people like Derek who don't see your worth. He stopped, laughed bitterly. I want things I have no right to want from someone I met yesterday. So I'm asking for small things. Stay a few more days. Let me show you Toronto. Let me prove I'm not just some obsessive stalker but someone who genuinely cares about your happiness. Then decide. And if I decide to leave? Pain flickered across his face, quickly hidden. Then Minjun drives you anywhere you want to go, and I stay out of your life.
Completely.
You'll never see me again. The thought of never seeing him again hurt more than it should after less than 24 hours. 3 days, Amara heard herself say. I'll give you 3 days. Then I decide. Jin-Woo's expression transformed, relief and hope and something fierce that made her stomach flip. 3 days. I can work with that. He offered his hand, that same gesture from last night on the rooftop. This time, when Amara took it, it felt less like escape and more like a choice. Minjun drove them to a private airfield where Jin-Woo's plane waited, an actual private jet with cream leather seats and a flight attendant who served champagne like it was water. Amara had never been on a private plane, had never imagined she would be. Toronto's only an hour, Jin-Woo said as they settled into seats across from each other. I want to show you the property before you make any decisions. The flight was surreal. Minjun sat up front, giving them privacy. Jin-Woo pointed out landmarks as they flew, telling her stories about Vancouver where he grew up, about building his business from nothing, about the people who'd helped him along the way. My first deal was selling knockoff designer bags to rich kids at the university, he said, smiling at the memory. Made $3,000 in a weekend. My mother found out and beat my ass with a wooden spoon. Said if I was going to be a criminal, at least do it for a good reason, not to feed wealthy people's vanity. Amara laughed despite herself. She sounds like she was fierce. She was everything. Worked 3 jobs to keep us fed after my father left. Never complained, never gave up. When she got sick, his voice caught. She apologized for being a burden. Like she hadn't spent her entire life carrying us. I'm sorry, Amara said softly. Jin-Woo looked at her, and vulnerability shone in his eyes. That's why I do what I do now. The gray area stuff. I help people like my mother, immigrants, working poor, people the system crushes. I make sure they don't have to choose between paying rent and eating, between medicine and electricity. I know it doesn't balance out the other things I've done, but it matters, Amara interrupted. The helping, it matters. Something passed between them in that moment, understanding that went deeper than words. Then Minjun's voice crackled over the intercom. Boss, we're landing. And the moment broke. Toronto's distillery district was all old brick and cobblestone streets, converted warehouses housing galleries and restaurants and boutiques. Jin-Woo led her through the pedestrian-only zone to a corner building with huge windows and exposed brick walls inside. This, he said, unlocking the door, is yours if you want it. Amara stepped inside and fell in love. The space was perfect. High ceilings with original wooden beams. An open floor plan that would work beautifully for a dining room. A commercial kitchen in the back that just needed equipment. Natural light pouring through those massive windows. She could see it already. Her grandmother's recipes made modern and elegant. Mason jar cocktails, mismatched vintage china. A space that felt like home. Well? Jin-Woo asked, watching her face. It's perfect, she whispered. Then reality crashed in. But I can't. I don't have the capital for equipment for staff for... You have me. Jin-Woo pulled out a folder from his bag. I had my lawyer draw up partnership papers this morning. 60-40 split. You get operational control. I'm a silent partner who only steps in if you ask. Equipment costs, permits, initial operating capital. I front it. You pay me back from profits at prime rate plus 2%, which is lower than any bank would give you. Read it. Have your own lawyer review it. If you don't like the terms, we renegotiate. Amara took the folder with shaking hands. Why are you doing this? Because you sang to my sister. Because you deserve a chance. Because... He stepped closer and his voice dropped. Because I meant what I said about wanting everything with you. And if that starts with a business partnership, then that's where we start. They spent the day planning. Jin-Woo called contractors, set up meetings, introduced her to a restaurant consultant who happened to owe him a favor. They toured the kitchen, measuring spaces, discussing layouts. Amara's head spun with possibilities. We need to talk about the self-defense training, Jin-Woo said as they sat in a coffee shop down the street, surrounded by blueprints and budget spreadsheets.
What?
I live in a dangerous world, Amara. If you're going to be in my life in any capacity, you need to know how to protect yourself. His expression was serious. I have enemies. People who would hurt you to get to me. I can provide security, but you need your own skills too. Fear flickered through her. I thought you were just import-export. I am. But I also disrupt operations for people who exploit vulnerable populations. I've shut down human trafficking rings, stopped predatory lenders, exposed corrupt officials. That makes me dangerous to some very powerful people. Jin-Woo held her gaze. I won't hide what I am from you. The question is whether you can live with it. Amara should run. Should take the restaurant offer and stay far away from Jin-Woo's world. But when she looked at him, she saw the man who'd cooked her breakfast, who'd honored his sister's memory by finding the dispatcher who'd comforted her, who was offering her dreams she'd thought were impossible. Teach me, she said. Over the next 2 days, Amara's life transformed into something unrecognizable. Morning started with self-defense training in Jin-Woo's private gym, Minjun teaching her basic strikes and escape techniques, while Jin-Woo watched with an intensity that made her hyper-aware of every movement. Afternoons were spent at the restaurant space, meeting contractors and designers and suppliers. Evenings they'd return to Jin-Woo's Toronto penthouse, even more luxurious than the Chicago one, and cook dinner together, talking about everything and nothing. He never pushed, never made her uncomfortable. But the tension between them grew with every accidental touch, every lingering look, every moment of shared laughter. On the third night, they stood on his Toronto balcony overlooking the city, and Jin-Woo said quietly, Your 3 days are up tomorrow. Amara's stomach dropped. She'd almost forgotten. Almost let herself believe this was her new normal. What do you want to do? He asked. She should go home to Chicago, back to her apartment and her old life. But Derek was in jail, her job felt meaningless now, and everything she'd thought she wanted had revealed itself to be a lie. Here, with Jin-Woo, she felt more alive than she had in years. I'm scared, she admitted. Of me.
Of this.
Of how fast everything's moving. Of how much She stopped, the words too dangerous to say out loud. Jin-Woo turned to face her, and the vulnerability in his expression matched her own. How much you what? Want this? Amara whispered. Want you? I barely know you, but I feel like I've been waiting for you without realizing it, and that terrifies me, because what if this is just rebound? What if I'm only feeling this because you saved me from Derek, and I'm confusing gratitude with? He kissed her, soft and careful and asking permission with every second. Amara froze for a heartbeat, then kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt. He tasted like the wine they'd had with dinner, and something darker, something that made her want to pull him closer and never let go. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jin-Woo rested his forehead against hers. That wasn't gratitude, he said roughly. That was real. Amara finished. That was real. So stay. Not forever. Not until you're sure. But stay long enough to find out what this is. His hands framed her face, thumbs stroking her cheeks. I know it's fast. I know it's probably insane. But I've never felt like this about anyone, and I don't want to lose you before we even have a chance. Amara looked into his eyes and made a decision that would change everything. Okay, she said. I'll stay. The kiss that followed was different, claiming and desperate and full of promise. Jin-Woo lifted her like she weighed nothing, carrying her inside to his bedroom where floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Toronto's glittering skyline. He set her down gently, giving her every chance to change her mind. You're sure? He asked. I'm sure. What happened next was tender and intense and nothing like Amara had experienced before. Jin-Woo worshipped every inch of her, murmuring Korean words she didn't understand but felt in her soul. He made her feel beautiful, cherished, powerful. And when she finally fell apart in his arms, he held her through the aftershocks like she was precious. Later, wrapped in his sheets with his heartbeat steady under her ear, Amara whispered, What did you say? In Korean? That you're beautiful. That I've wanted this since I first saw you. That I'm never letting you go, if you'll let me keep you. He pressed a kiss to her hair. I meant it, Amara. All of it. She believed him. The morning shattered their peace with a phone call. Jin-Woo's phone buzzed at 6 a.m., Min-jun's name flashing on the screen. He answered immediately, his voice sharp with alertness despite just waking. What happened? Amara couldn't hear Min-jun's response, but she watched Jin-Woo's expression go from concerned to furious. When? A pause. How many? Another pause. Keep her there. I'm coming. He hung up and was already out of bed, pulling on clothes.
Get dressed.
We need to move.
Now.
What's wrong? Victor Chen knows you're in Toronto. He's planning something. Jin-Woo's voice was clipped, efficient, terrifying. I need to handle this before it reaches you. Amara dressed quickly, her hands shaking. This was the reality of his world. Danger wasn't theoretical anymore. They met Min-jun in the lobby, the normally cheerful man now all business. Chen's people were asking about her at the restaurant space. Min-jun said quietly, They know she's important to you, boss. They're going to use her. No, they're not. Jin-Woo's voice was ice. Get her to the safe house in Vancouver. I'll handle Chen. Wait, Amara protested. You can't just. I can, and I will. Jin-Woo gripped her shoulders, his eyes fierce. This is what I was afraid of. This is why I warned you. Victor Chen runs one of the largest human trafficking operations on the West Coast. I've been dismantling his network for 2 years, and he wants revenge. If he gets his hands on you, then let me help, Amara said desperately. Use me as bait. Set a trap. Absolutely not. Why not? You said I needed to learn to protect myself. Trust me. Let me. I said no. Jin-Woo's voice cracked like a whip. I won't risk you. Min-jun, get her out of here. But Amara planted her feet. I'm not running. I'm not going to hide in Vancouver while you face this alone. Either we do this together, or I walk away right now, and you never see me again. The ultimatum hung between them. Jin-Woo's jaw worked, fury and fear warring in his expression. Finally, he turned to Min-jun. Call Young. Tell him to set up surveillance at the distillery. And get Torres on standby. Boss. She's right. If Chin wants her, he'll keep coming. Better to control when and where. Jin-Woo looked back at Amara. But you follow my lead.
Exactly. No improvising. No heroics.
Understood. Understood. They spent the day planning. Jin-Woo had more resources than Amara could have imagined. A network of people across Toronto who owed him favors, security experts, even a retired cop who consulted on delicate situations. The plan was simple. Amara would go to the restaurant space alone, but with tracking devices and Min-jun hidden nearby. Chen's people would take her. Jin-Woo's team would follow to Chen's location. They'd have evidence of kidnapping, trafficking operations, everything needed to end Chen permanently. What if something goes wrong? Amara asked that night as they lay in bed, neither sleeping. Nothing will go wrong. Jin-Woo. He pulled her closer, his voice rough. If something goes wrong, Min-jun gets you out. That's his only job. Not helping me. Not stopping Chen. Just you. I don't want you to get hurt because of me. Then we'll both have to be careful. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then her lips. I love you, Amara. I know it's too soon, I know you probably think I'm insane, but I love you. And I need you to know that before tomorrow. Tears stung her eyes. I think I love you too. Which is insane. The best things usually are. They made love slowly, memorizing each other, holding tight to something that felt too good to be true. Afterward, Jin-Woo held her until she fell asleep, whispering promises in Korean that she felt even without understanding. Morning came too fast. Amara walked into the distillery district alone, wearing jeans and a jacket with 2 tracking devices sewn into the lining. She felt the weight of the small knife Min-jun had given her in her boot. The streets were quiet this early, most shops not yet open. She made it to the restaurant space, unlocked the door, stepped inside. Tried to act natural like she was just checking on progress. 10 minutes passed.
20.
Maybe Chen's people weren't. The door burst open. 3 men, fast and professional. Amara managed one punch, just like Min-jun taught her, before someone grabbed her from behind. A cloth pressed over her mouth and nose, chemical sweet. She struggled, remembering her training, but the world went fuzzy at the edges. The last thing she saw before everything went black was Min-jun's face in the window across the street, phone to his ear, mouthing, "We've got you." Then nothing. Amara woke with a splitting headache in a warehouse that smelled like oil and rust. Her hands were zip-tied to a metal chair, and her whole body ached. Across from her stood a man in an expensive suit. Victor Chin, she realized with a lurch of fear. He looked exactly like he had in Las Vegas, polished, cruel, entitled. "You're awake. Good." Victor smiled. "I was hoping we could chat before Jin-Woo arrives." "He's coming. Keep him talking," she remembered.
By time.
Oh, he's already here. Probably preparing some dramatic rescue. Very predictable. Our Jin-Woo. Victor circled her chair slowly. "He killed my brother, did he tell you that?" 3 years ago. Said my brother was trafficking girls from the Philippines, which was technically true, but it was just business. Jin-Woo made it personal. He stops people from being hurt. That's not. Victor's hand cracked across her face. Stars exploded behind her eyes, and she tasted blood. "Don't defend him to me." Victor's pleasant tone never changed. "He's no hero. He's a criminal who plays vigilante to feel better about himself. And you're just his latest obsession. Give him 6 months and he'll be bored, looking for the next lost cause to save." "You're wrong," Amara said through her split lip. "Am I? How long have you known him?"
A week.
"And he's already got you playing bait in criminal operations. Does that sound like love to you? Or does it sound like—" The warehouse door exploded inward. Jin-Woo came through like violence given human form, Min-jun and 3 other men flanking him. He moved with terrifying efficiency, 2 of Victor's guards down in seconds, a third screaming as Jin-Woo broke his arm with a casual twist. Then he locked eyes on Victor, and Amara had never seen anything so cold. "Get away from her," Jin-Woo said quietly. Victor smiled and pulled a gun, pressing it to Amara's temple. "Or what? You shoot me and risk hitting her?" "I don't think so." Everything happened too fast. Amara remembered the knife in her boot, remembered Min-jun's training about creating chaos. She threw her weight sideways, tipping the chair. Victor's gun went off, deafening in the enclosed space, but the bullet hit concrete. Amara hit the ground hard, pain shooting through her shoulder. Then Jin-Woo was there, on Victor like a predator. The gun went flying. Punches landed with sickening thuds, bone on bone, brutal and precise. Victor fought back, but he was outmatched. Jin-Woo beat him methodically, face twisted with rage, until Victor stopped moving. "Boss!" Min-jun's shout finally broke through. "Boss, that's enough. He's down." Jin-Woo stopped, breathing hard, blood on his knuckles. Then he spun toward Amara, terror replacing fury. "Are you hurt?" "Did he?"
I'm okay.
She was zip-tied and bruised, and her ears were ringing, but she was okay. "Get me out of these." Min-jun cut the zip ties while Jin-Woo checked her over with shaking hands, cataloging every bruise, every scrape. When he saw her split lip, something dangerous flickered in his eyes. "I'm going to kill him," he said flatly.
No.
Amara grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. "You're not. We have everything we need: kidnapping, assault, trafficking evidence. Let the police handle it. He hurt you. And if you kill him, you go away too. I need you here. With me." Her voice cracked. "Please, Jin-Woo. Don't leave me now." The rage in his expression crumbled into something devastated. He pulled her close, careful of her injuries, and shook against her.
I'm sorry.
"I'm so sorry. I never should have let you. Stop. I chose this." Amara held him tight. "I chose you, and I'd choose you again. We're okay. We're both okay." Sirens wailed in the distance. Min-jun had already called them, Amara realized. The cavalry was coming. Jin-Woo pulled back just enough to look at her, and his eyes were wet. "I love you," he said. "I love you, and I almost lost you, and I can't." "You didn't lose me. I'm right here." She kissed him, blood and tears and relief. "I'm right here." The police arrived to find Victor Chun unconscious and bound, evidence of trafficking operations scattered throughout the warehouse, and Jin-Woo holding Amara like she was the only thing keeping him upright. The next week was a blur of police statements, lawyers, and media attention. Victor Chun was charged with kidnapping, human trafficking, assault. The list went on. Derek's trial wrapped up too. He got 15 years for fraud and embezzlement. His father got 20. Through it all, Jin-Woo stayed by Amara's side. He moved them to Vancouver, to a safe house overlooking the ocean where they could breathe without looking over their shoulders. But Amara noticed the changes. The nightmares that woke him sweating and panicked. The way he flinched when she moved too quickly. The careful distance he maintained, like he was afraid to touch her. "Talk to me," she said one night on the deck, Vancouver's lights glittering across the water.
Ivy fine.
"You're not. Neither am I." Amara wrapped her arms around herself. "I keep seeing his face. Feeling the gun against my head. Hearing the shot. I know it missed, but I can't." Her voice broke. Jin-Woo was beside her immediately, pulling her into his arms.
I'm sorry.
"I've been so focused on my own guilt I didn't. You need help. Professional help. We both do. I don't want to be broken by this." "Then we won't be. Not alone." He kissed her hair. "I'll find us someone. A therapist who specializes in trauma. We'll go together. Whatever it takes."
They did.
Over the next months, Amara learned that healing wasn't linear. Some days she felt strong and capable. Other days, loud noises sent her into panic attacks. Jin-Woo had his own demons, Guilt over putting her in danger, nightmares about losing her, anger at himself for not protecting her better. But they worked through it together. Therapy sessions twice a week. Long talks on the deck. Slowly rebuilding trust in themselves and each other. And through it all, the restaurant took shape. By the time Amara felt ready to return to Toronto, the space was transformed. Exposed brick and Edison bulbs, mismatched vintage plates, a menu that blended her grandmother's southern cooking with modern techniques. They called it Minsio's, after Jin-Woo's sister, a tribute to the woman whose death had brought them together. Opening night, Amara stood in her kitchen watching orders come in, and felt something settle in her chest. This was hers. She'd built this. Not because someone rescued her, but because she fought for it. Jin-Woo watched from the back of the dining room, Min-jun beside him. "She's incredible," Min-jun said. "I know. You did good, boss. Letting her do this herself. Not hovering. Hardest thing I've ever done." Jin-Woo's eyes never left Amara. "But she doesn't need me to succeed. She just needs me to be there while she does." After service, when the last guests left and the staff cleaned up, Jin-Woo found Amara in the kitchen staring at the empty plates with tears streaming down her face. "Hey," he said gently. "What's wrong?" "Nothing's wrong. Everything's." She laughed wetly. "They loved it. Every dish. I got 3 offers from food critics who want to feature us. And Mrs. Kim from my old building came and said my grandmother would be proud, and I just—" Jin-Woo pulled her close, let her cry into his chef's coat. "She would be proud."
I'm proud.
"You're amazing, Amara. I couldn't have done this without you." "Yes, you could have. Maybe it would have taken longer, but you would have found a way. That's who you are." He pulled back enough to see her face. "Which is why I need to ask you something." "What?" He dropped to one knee right there in her kitchen, pulling a small box from his pocket. Amara's breath caught. "Marry me," Jin-Woo said simply. "Not because I saved you from a bad wedding. Not because you owe me anything. But because you're the strongest, most incredible woman I've ever met, and I want to spend the rest of my life watching you be extraordinary. Marry me as equals. As partners. As people who chose each other every single day." The ring was perfect, a sapphire surrounded by diamonds, blue as the ocean outside his Vancouver house. "Yes," Amara whispered. "Yes, yes, yes." He slid the ring onto her finger and kissed her there in the kitchen, surrounded by the evidence of her success, and Amara felt whole. They got married on a beach in Tofino, British Columbia, 6 months later. 20 guests, salt air, and sunset. Vows they wrote themselves about choosing each other, about partnership, about building something real from the ruins of Amara's worst day. Right before they sealed it with a kiss, Amara grabbed Jin-Woo's hand.
Wait.
"I need to tell you something." Everyone froze. Jin-Woo's eyes widened slightly. "What?" "I'm pregnant." The beach erupted in shocked laughter and cheers. Jin-Woo's face did something complicated, shock to joy to tenderness, before he pulled her close. "I know," he whispered. "What?"
How?
"You've been craving kimchi and fried chicken every morning for 3 weeks. You stopped drinking wine. And you threw up twice last week when you thought I wasn't paying attention." He smiled against her lips. "I was waiting for you to tell me. You sneaky." He kissed her before she could finish, long and deep and full of promise. When they finally broke apart, both crying and laughing, the officiant cleared his throat. "Can I finish now?" They laughed and said, "I do," through tears, and when Jin-Woo kissed her again as his wife, Amara felt like her life was finally, perfectly, hers. 1 year later, Minsio's had expanded to 2 locations, and a waiting list 3 months long. Amara's daughter, Min-hee, after Jin-Woo's mother, slept in a carrier on her chest while she did prep work in the morning. Jin-Woo had mostly left his gray area business behind, consulting occasionally but focusing on legitimate investments and spending time with his family. They bought a house in Toronto's Riverdale neighborhood with a garden where Amara grew vegetables and herbs for the restaurant. Min-jun lived in the guest house, the protective Uncle Min he would grow up adoring. And on quiet nights when the baby slept and the city hummed around them, Amara and Jin-Woo would sit on their porch and remember the rooftop in Chicago where everything fell apart so something better could begin. Do you ever regret it? Jin-Woo asked one night, Min-hee asleep against his chest. That day? The wedding. Amara thought about Derek, about the humiliation, about the woman she'd been who thought she wasn't enough. Then she looked at her husband, her daughter, the life they'd built together. Not even a little bit, she said. Good. He reached for her hand, squeezed gently. Because I'd live through it all again if it meant ending up here. Me too. And she meant it. Because sometimes your worst day breaks you open just enough for the light to get in. Sometimes the man who seems dangerous is the one who sees you clearly. And sometimes love doesn't look like a fairy tale. It looks like two broken people choosing each other every single day and building something real from the wreckage. Amara had been rejected at an altar in front of hundreds, had been kidnapped and threatened and forced to face her worst fears, had learned that strength wasn't about being fearless, it was about being terrified and doing it anyway. And through it all, Jin-Woo had been there. Not as her savior, not as her owner, but as her partner, her equal, her choice. 3 years after that terrible night on the Chicago rooftop, Amara stood in her flagship restaurant's kitchen, Minseo's original location, now legendary, and thought about the girl who'd worn that gold-trimmed wedding dress. The girl who'd believed Derek when he said she wasn't enough. That girl would barely recognize the woman Amara had become. Mom. Min-hee toddled into the kitchen, Jin-Woo trailing behind with a resigned smile. Daddy says I can help. Did he now? Amara shot her husband a look. She's very persuasive, Jin-Woo said, unrepentant. Wonder where she gets it. Amara laughed and lifted her daughter onto a stool, let her help shape dumplings while Jin-Woo watched with soft eyes. This was her life. This was her family. Built from nothing, from betrayal and heartbreak and taking a stranger's hand on the worst night of her life. I love you, Jin-Woo said quietly, words he said every day like a promise. I love you too, Amara replied, meaning it with her whole heart. And somewhere in heaven, she liked to think Minseo was smiling, knowing the comfort she received from a stranger's kindness had led to this. To love. To family. To two broken souls finding each other and building something whole. The wedding that never happened had been a gift in disguise. Because Amara didn't need someone to save her. She just needed someone to see her, to stand beside her, and to believe in who she could become. Jin-Woo had done all three. And that made all the difference. Thank you for watching till the end, sweethearts. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from, and don't forget to like, share, and comment to support the story.